Arsenal, our shop, our range, our home. Filled with entertainers, educators, and enthusiasts, all together pursuing one goal: to inspire the 2A community to enjoy their firearms responsibly. Today, we'd like to introduce you to Gary Zimmerman, Army veteran trainer and educator, as we discuss a surplus amount of ways to feel comfortable behind your firearm, to feel comfortable not only inside the range, but outside of the range, and why his main goal is to help you simply get better.
So shooting is, firing a firearm, it takes a lot of skill to begin with. And it is a perishable skill if you're not doing it on a regular basis. Sort of like people that drive cars. You drive a car, and then let's just say for whatever reason you don't drive a car for 2 or 3 years. You jump back behind the wheel, there's some trepidation there, there's a skill level that has diminished, so you got to start over. It's kind of the same way with shooting. If you don't do it on a regular basis, you're going to lose that skill, and then you got to kind of dial it back to ground zero and start over again. So if you're shooting on a regular basis, you can constantly keep progressing. And if you don't progress, that's why we do this, is to get better. The basic fundamentals of grip, stance, those have not really changed that much through the years, but some of the shooting philosophies have. It used to be front sight focused on your pistol, and you was always front sight focused whenever you was trying to shoot. Well, the practical world or the competition world has shown that if you get into pistol shooting, for example, you want to try and be target focused. And if you're target focused and you're kind of letting everything else run in the background, then that's where really the magic lies. And there's a guy I pretty much respect in the community. He always uses the tagline of "the magic is there's no magic," and it's not. It's if you take and you practice your skills and get to the target focus, and you let things run in the background because you've practiced the hard skills of your grip and your stance, then you can really focus on driving the gun fast and then making that happen and then seeing the good results that come from it. Dry fire is huge. If you don't run dry fire, basically you're just wasting money. If you're in the range and you're shooting 200 rounds thinking that you're going to get better, you're probably barking up the wrong tree. In my opinion, I think if you do the dry fire piece at least 10 to 15 minutes a day, and just practice one skill. If it's drawing from the holster, draw from the holster and practice that skill until it's solid. If it's getting that good index point so that you get your red dot every single time right at your eye level without having to drop your head, then do that. But whatever the case is, or whatever you're training in your dry fire, when you come to the range, you should be able to take 50 rounds and check your training and see if you're doing well. If you have somebody that has done a little bit of training, and then they walk away from it for a period of time and then they come back to it, it's kind of like what I was saying before. They kind of end up having to start from ground zero, and you have to build that base again. Now they pick it up a lot quicker the second time, but you still have to build that foundational base of the grip, the stance, making sure that everything is consistent so that they're getting a consistent sight picture. And when they get that consistent sight picture, then they're able to put their rounds on the target where they want to. And that's really what it boils down to, is if you're doing that consistently, and the consistency being your stance, your grip, your vision, and seeing what you're seeing on the target, that's huge. Focus on the target whenever you're doing target focused shooting. I mean, I even struggle with it at times. You know, when you're doing target focused training and you're looking at the target and you're shooting strings, and all of a sudden you start reverting back to looking at the sights, or you're not looking, well, that all translates on the target. You know, you see exactly what you was doing. So it helps with diagnosing problems. It's easy to diagnose problems for people that I train, because you can see what they're doing. So it's, you know, I'll have them shoot a string where I'm just watching how are they standing, or watching how are they holding the gun. Then might watch, you know, what's the attitude of the gun, where, you know, are they slapping the trigger or anything like that, you know, or are they just easing into it? How are they shooting? And then, you know, we'll pull the target in, we'll talk to the student and say, hey, you know, this is kind of what you're doing. Here's what you need to do to correct it. And then sometimes we see the corrective action, sometimes it's hard for them to grasp. And the ones that it's a little hard for them to grasp, it's just, at that point, it's repetition to try and get them to see the improvement. The incremental improvement is the part that's huge. If you can get a brand new student who's never fired a handgun before, ever in their entire lives, they pick it up and they shoot 5 rounds, and they see the 5 rounds are going exactly where they're supposed to, that's huge, because then it kind of clicks with them. Okay, you know, brand new students are sometimes easier to teach than people that have had prior training.
Bad habits built up, things like that.
Right,
yeah, sure.
Right. So the bad habits, that's one of those things that is hard to break. But you got to put them in kind of an uncomfortable position to make them see the benefit. So first, I would say pick a discipline to focus on first. If you're going to focus on handgun, focus on handgun. If you're going to focus on rifle, focus on rifle. If you're going to focus on long-range shooting, focus on long-range shooting. But pick a discipline and kind of stick with it, and try to master that discipline first before you start picking something else up. It's great to try and, I think a lot of times I see with people that come into the shop, that we get a lot of people that are trying to overtrain. And when I say overtrain, I'm talking they're kind of all over the place. They want to do pistol, shotgun, rifle. They want to do it all in one session. I see people come in here with, 14 bags, and they want to shoot every gun that they have. And that's okay if that's what you're just coming just to have fun to plink and punch paper. But if you're serious about training, you need to find that piece, and you need to focus on training with that and mastering that. If you master that particular firearm, then you can start saying, okay, I've mastered this one, I can set it to the side, I can pick something else up and try to master it. And from handgun perspective, if you've mastered a handgun, when you pick up another handgun, you're kind of ahead of the curve on the next one. Each handgun has its little nuances. I mean, Glock and SIG. SIG has a different grip angle than a Glock does, and you're talking about a different discipline. Going from irons to red dot. Irons to red dot. That's a big jump. I meh I've started down kind of a red dot journey myself, because I've been doing I had been doing iron sights for a long time, but the eyes and in shooting competitions and stuff like that, red dots are faster. I mean, it's something that you have to kind of learn how to shoot. And a lot of people think that you stare at the dot, and you don't. The dot runs in the background. You're looking at the target. You're just waiting for that color to flash across it. And when that color's there, smash the trigger.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that one the other day. That one was kind of mind blowing. That's definitely been, as beginners get, that's been a big thing with me and with training with Jake. You know, having both eyes open as a TV and everything like that,
yep.
or whatever. Just learning as a kid, close one eye, and you know, go down.
Yeah.
Especially with handguns.
And that's kind of a thing that a lot of people don't realize is you've got two cameras that's sitting right here on your head. You know, why would you shut one of them down when you're sitting there and you're looking at targets and stuff? I mean, from an everyday carry perspective, you want to have as complete a field of vision as possible. I don't want to close my one eye and go, hey, you know, I'm going to take, you know, I need to defend myself, but I can't see the guy over here off to my right side now because I closed my eye. You know, that's one of those things that a lot of people, they don't get. They say, well, I can't shoot with both eyes. You have a dominant eye. All you're doing is taking two pictures and you're superimposing them one on top of the other. So you're really going to see from your dominant eye, you know, from that perspective, you're going to see your sights. You're going to see your sights covering the target. From the other perspective, your non-dominant eye, you're going to see the picture complete, and all you're doing is putting them one over the other. And you're going to see, you know, that complete picture because your brain processes it that way. It's so difficult that it's easy, is probably the easiest way to say it. It's, you know, a lot of people, they're like, I can't do that, I can't do that. But if you just stop and, okay, look, I'm just going to take and I'm going to line this thing up. I'm going to keep both eyes open. I'm just going to keep putting my rounds where I need to put my rounds. And they're going to see that, hey, you know, keeping that second eye open is it's not affecting me. It really depends upon the skill level of the shooter. If I always ask every person that comes in to do a private training with us, I ask them, hey, you know, what do you want to work on? You know, is there, you know, what's your skill level? Get kind of a sense of where they are so that I can figure out what they want. You know, you might get an experienced guy that he just says, hey, I want to work on pistol draws. You know, okay, cool. We'll work from the holster and we'll work on pistol draws. We'll do it safely and make sure that you're able to do your draws, and we'll start honing it and getting it down so that you can get it faster and stuff like that. But to answer your question about the older folks, I do see a lot of older folks coming through, and I mean, in full disclosure, I'm in my late 50s, so I'm right there with you in the AARP crowd. But I'm seeing a lot of older folks that are coming through. The biggest challenge that I have with them is getting them out of the mindset of what they've always done. There's some that are first-time gun buyers, and they're getting guns based on the world situation of today. You know, we see in the news where older folks are getting preyed on by younger folks, you know, and they just want to be able to defend themselves, which is a great thing. I think an armed society is a polite society. So, you know, that's where the training piece is really paramount, because they need to understand you can't just come in, take the class to get your permit, take the class to get your handgun qualification license to buy a handgun, and then think that that's the end of it. That's the beginning of the journey, really. From there, it should be training. I still go to trainings on my own. I continue to try and expand my skill level, because if I don't, then I can't stay on what's relevant in the training world. I see new methodologies of training all the time, and the new methodologies of training, it's fast, and it's a different thing than what you've always been taught by these, organizations. And I don't want to mention their names, but there's organizations that are out there that they stress, you got to do it this way and do it that way. Well, there's other ways of doing, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And there's other methodologies that are out there on how to train. And I kind of subscribe to that. I was kind of in the old mindset of, hey, we got to do iron sights, and you need to be able to look at that front sight. You got to do this, but it's not that way anymore. You got to stay advanced, and it's important for us as trainers here in this shop to continue to constantly evolve and go out and seek out the new trainings and stuff. So, movement is life. That's the easiest way to say it. Get off the X. Do not stand still. In everyday carry, you need to have a plan in your head to be constantly moving. And shooting on the move is a skill in of itself, and you need to be able to do that as well. I do try to incorporate a little bit of movement in the AR class, and the reason being is I want you to understand that you can still manipulate the firearm, fire effectively at multiple targets while still moving. That's something at a basic level to try and get people to understand, and it's a slow process. Now, you can't really go super fast doing something like that, especially looking at the safety concerns. You want to be able to do these things safely. It's unfortunate that our range, we don't have the ability to really open up and do a lot of movement the way that we need to. There's outdoor ranges and stuff that I go to that I'm actually able to incorporate a lot of movement into my own personal training. And I would really encourage other people, come to our range to get your skills, and then go out there and get that movement piece as well. Because the movement is important. A lot of people get stuck into the mindset, and they create that training scar of, I'm going to stand here in the lane, I'm going to get my perfect stance, I'm going to get my perfect grip, and I'm going to fire my rounds, and I'm going to hit that X ring every single time. Okay, cool. That's great for target shooting. For practical everyday carry, that's not something that you want to do. You don't want to be static. If, God forbid, you're ever in a gunfight, you don't want to stand still. Closing distance, using cover, stuff like that is a skill, and you need to think about that. And you need to think about it before the gunfight happens. That's one of those things where I kind of feel like a lot of people, they don't get
Absolutely.
a lot of that training, and they don't think about it. My wife, God love her, she looks at me all the time. She knows that when I walk in a restaurant or something, we're going to sit down, first thing she asks me, she's like, which chair do you want? Yeah. And because she knows that I'm going to be watching doors, and I'm going to be watching people, and I want to put myself in the most advantageous situation, that if something was to happen, that I'm able to take care of business and protect myself and my family. The Bill Drill video that we put out, okay, that right there, it was 250 is nothing to sneeze at. I've gotten it down to 243 with some things that I've seen. My draw to first shot is really where I can pick up my time. So my draw to first shot in that video is 136. Well, 136 is slow. I need to get that 3/10 off there, and I need to be 1 second or sub 1 second to get that draw. If I can do that, then I'm down there in that 2-1, 2-2 range that I can possibly get down there to almost 2 seconds. If you're running a build drill at 2 seconds, you're kind of almost at master level, because that's where the really good super guys live. They live at that 2 second or sub 2 second range. And I'd be happy if I could get it down to 2-1. I mean, that would be great for me. That would be a personal win for me. But it's about always striving to do better. Is there places that you can improve? By using the shot clock and seeing that in the video, along with the video now, and you can match your shots to it, that's, to me, is a big game changer, because it allows you to go back and diagnose what you're doing. Did your draw, what can you do to improve your draw? So like in my dry fire and stuff like that now, I'm focusing a lot more on my draw to try and get my draw down to that sub 1 second.
Yeah, that just goes to show the importance. I think it just doubles down on the importance of the training in general.
Yeah.
Talking about improving tenths of seconds.
Yes, and tenths of seconds is what it's, that's what it's all about. When you're talking about the competition game, whether you're talking about the everyday life. When you stop and think about it, us as concealed carry permit holders, and we're out there in the world walking around, that 1/10 of a second could be the difference between life or death.
Absolutely.
Or somebody getting hurt and somebody not getting hurt. That's huge, in my opinion. I would say that probably the biggest thing would be some type of dry fire. And if you're talking about everyday carry, okay, get your everyday carry rig and get your firearm, making sure that it's unloaded, leave the ammo and the mag in a different room, and just practice on clearing the garment, clearing your concealment and getting the gun out. A lot of people don't understand how critical it is to be able to do that at a fast pace. A lot of people, the very first time that they do it, the first thing that happens is they get caught up in their clothes because they don't understand. It changes the way that you're going to wear your clothes. It's going to change a lot of things. How your belt, your holster, all of that is all important. They're all systems that work together. And if they don't work together, then you need to change it so that it does and that it's successful. You have to kind of figure out what is the best way for you to do that. Dry fire, to me, and you got to have some type of a timer. You need to have some type of a plan together. And if you don't have a plan, come in and talk to some of the folks that's here at the shop, because we can kind of help you out with that. But I think if you get yourself a plan together and you sit down and you focus on one area in your dry fire training, you focus on, if you're an everyday carry guy, how do I get my gun out of the holster so that I can break my first shot in the shortest amount of time so that Johnny Bad Guy doesn't get the drop on me. You're talking about you are a trained individual versus somebody that's probably trying to rob you that's not trained. Okay, so you're stacking the odds in your favor, and that's kind of a big thing. I think when you stack those odds in your favor, that's going to be more than likely you're going to be able to go home, or your family's going to be able to go home from whatever that everyday carry incident might be. My name's Gary Zimmerman. I am one of the trainers here at mdarsenal. I do have my own company, Hat Creek Enterprises. I do stuff outside of here as well as in here, but my main focus is to try to further this company, to try and get them up to where they need to be, and I just want to help. I mean, that's what I want to do. I just want to help. I'll try to get different programs, different things of training. The nice thing about the people that run this shop is they're very open to new suggestions. They're very open to new styles of training. They're very open to exploring and trying different things. And that's really what this is all about. For me, you know, coming from a military background into the civilian world, I mean, you know, there's a lot of things that we did in the military that we're looking at now that it's not even close to what we're training, you know. I can tell you the marksmanship that I got when I was in the military is, I mean, that's very rudimentary from what I am training now. I think some of the one-on-one trainings that I give to a new 17-year-old or you know, a single mom or something like that, the training that I'm giving them now is probably far advanced of what I got when I was in the military. So yeah, I think it's really important for people to really see the value in coming in here. I know we're asking you to come in and spend money with us, but I think if you come in and you spend the money, it's not really you spending money, it's an investment, because you're investing in your training, you're investing in a skill, you're investing in, you know, possibly one day a skill that might save your life. You know, a lot of times people, they get that miss, you know, they get hung up on the price of, you know, whether it be the gun, whether it be the holster, the belt, the training or whatever, the ammo. They get hung up on the price. And you know, the one thing that it goes back to my old racing days when I raced race cars. You know, I spared no expense on all the speed equipment, and then when it came to the safety equipment, I wanted to try and cheap out. And you know, I had a guy, a wise man, told me, you know, when I told him that I wanted a really cheap helmet, and he looked at me and he says, well, you only got one head. He says, and they don't grow back. He said, you know, so, you know, what is your head worth to you? So that's what I always try to ask people whenever they're buying a gun or whether they're doing training or something like that. I always ask them, I was like, what's your life worth to you? Because that's where you're really gonna
make these decisions easy.
Well, it's going to hit home with a lot of people real fast, because they're going to be like, well, you know what? I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's to me, that's one of those things that is kind of an aha moment, and you can sometimes see the light bulb click. I had one of the guys that comes into the shop every now and again, and he was buying his first AR rifle. And he says, I want to stay in the $500 to $600 range and everything. And when he left here, he left with a $1,000 rifle and, you know, optics and stuff. And then he signed up for the training and stuff to come back, and it's paying dividends for him. You know, he left the training and he felt really good about it. And, you know, we try to make it fun. It's not all, hey, we're going to be rigid and we're going to stay on this, you know. It's let's do it safe, let's do it fun, but I also want to give you a critical skill, and I want you to be relaxed. If you're relaxed when you're doing this, you can see that it's easier to do. Tense, when you're doing it really tense, it's not as easy to do. It's you know, it's one of those things that a lot of people can't grasp sometimes.
Sure. All right, and that is a wrap.
Good.
Thank you very much. That was awesome.